Ladies and gents, you guys know how we do. All things covered. Patrick Peterson and Bryant McFadden. We oftentimes bring you guys bonus episodes. And when we factor in bonus episodes, it's a big deal. It's not just a big deal because it's a bonus. It's a big deal because usually the guests we have on the bonus episodes, they're major. Nationally known, internationally known. I mean, just known everywhere. And for this bonus episode, I'm excited. I'm fired up because I've been knowing this individual for a long, long time. Actually, when I first tried to jumpstart my media career, I had the luxury of working with this said individual down in Miami, working. Stu, what was? Well, I just gave his name already. What was it?
That's okay. You set it up beautifully. It was on CBS, local CBS 4, WFOR.
Yes.
Out here in Miami. The name of the show was Sports Bang. Okay.
Sports Bang. Yes. Down in Doral. In Doral. I volunteered my time every Saturday. I was trying to find the next avenue for me to choose. And I want to talk sports. I love talking sports, specifically football. I got an opportunity and I walk in first time, just being new, not knowing exactly what to expect. I meet Stugotz along with quite a few other individuals as well that was extremely professional and just treated me like family. And since then, me and Stu have been cool. You know what I mean? We've always been in contact. And I've been on his show. I wanted to get him on our show. And guess what? Today is not just my special day. It's everyone who's watching us on YouTube. It's your special day. And everyone who's listening to us via podcast, it's your special day as well. But let me finish his intro. Co-host of one of the more popular shows out there, Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. You can find the show anywhere podcasts are found. You also can watch them on YouTube, just like you watching us. Search Le Batard and Friends, the YouTube channel, and you will see Dan Le Batard and the very aforementioned Stugotz joining me here. Stu, what's happening? How you doing?
What's going on, man? I'm excited to be here. And yes, we met many, many years ago on the set of Sports Bang, CBS in Miami. And I recognized then that there was a very talented individual there, obviously on the field, but off the field. And I told you right then and there, like, Bryant, you could do this for a living. And here you are doing it for a living, and I am proud of you. I do have a question for you, though. I feel like bonus episodes aren't reserved. Like, here's me taking the steering wheel, okay, getting handsy and taking it over.
I like it. This is the first, by the way. Go ahead, take it.
But either you or your producer can answer this. I don't care, okay? Mm-hmm. But I am wondering, because a bonus episode, you said, if we're going to do a bonus episode, we're going to do it big, okay? I imagine, like, for me, Nick Saban would be doing it big. Stugotz not doing it big. And so I'm wondering, like, what have the last couple of bonus episodes been? Like, I want to see where you're putting me in terms of celebrity.
I'm putting you, the most recent, and matter of fact, Stu, we had Nick Saban on, but he didn't have a bonus. He had his own episode.
Okay, of course he did. He deserves it. Yeah.
So Jermaine Dupri. We just had him on as a bonus episode.
All right.
We've had Master P on as a bonus episode. Ice Cube.
Okay. All right. Okay. And you're putting me.
Continue.
Right. And I apologize for my dog. Keep going. Yes.
No question. I got 3 of them upstairs right now. They understand it's podcast time.
Yeah, but yours aren't barking. Mine are.
Yeah, mine are a little more behaved than yours. And I got 3. So I just gave you a list of bonus episodes. Do you feel at home now, right? You should, right?
I feel like probably. Did you say Ice Cube?
Yes, sir.
I feel like you. I feel like there's pressure now. I feel an added
Chris
weight.
Bosh. Chris Bosh, Dominique Wilkins.
Oh my God! You're putting me in a category I'm not certain I belong, Brian.
What do you mean?
But I'll take it. No,
you heard what I said? The intro was like not just nationally known, internationally known, not just here domestically speaking, but across the globe. That's you, Stugotz.
Okay.
That's why you're on this episode.
Listen, I'll take it. I'm just saying. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love that. I love that I have arrived at a place where I considered a bonus episode. That is fantastic.
But that's a big deal.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
I know
it's a big deal. And with bonus episodes, of course, some of the names that are reeled off to you, they're not just all in the athletic world, but you're an athlete that's just you once was an outstanding athlete before you jumped into the media game. Little Birdie told me you used to participate in lacrosse. What kind of lacrosse player were you?
Many years ago. Okay, decades ago at this point. As I continue to age in a way that's uncomfortable for me. Back in I grew up in Long Island, Brian. So Lacrosse is like, by the time you're 5 or 6 years old, you just have a lacrosse stick in your hand. It's like a rite of passage where I grew up in Long Island. Okay?
It's like football in South Florida for kids. Like when you grow up, you got to play football.
That is exactly right. And if you're not playing lacrosse, you're not walking around town with a stick, like, people are like, hey, what the hell's the matter with that guy? And so, listen, I learned the sport at a very early age. I played it all the way through high school. Was on one of the great high school teams of all time. Went to a state final the first time.
What was the name of that high school team?
Port Washington, Schreiber High School.
And you said one of the best teams all time.
For our school, it's the only team, I believe, from our school. Now we're in the middle, like we're in the heart of lacrosse country, that made it to a state championship that we lost to Ward Melville. I think about it every single day.
You still think about
it? Yeah, Brian. What do you think about more, the losses or the wins? Honestly, the losses. They stick with you, man.
No question.
They stick with you. So I grew up and I played through college at Clark University. At the time I had left Clark University, I was there. It's a D3 school up in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. I was their all-time leading scorer, and I love the sport so much that even down here in South Florida, where I'm trying to grow the sport a bit, I coach my daughter's team. She's a 2022. Mm-hmm. They made it all the way up to number 1 in the country 2 consecutive years. Super proud of that. Was able to coach her through that, and she just signed, and she'll be playing lacrosse at Northwestern, which is probably for women's lacrosse one of the 4 best.
That's a big deal.
That's big time.
I even know that, and I'm not even a lacrosse guy, but I know Northwestern, like, they heavy when it comes to the game.
It's like Maryland, Carolina, Northwestern, Boston College. And so I always told my daughter, hey, if you're going to work this hard at something, then use it to get into a... She's smart, Brian. Mm-hmm. Hey, that's smart. And I said, listen, we're going to use this thing that you work really hard at to get yourself into a school you wouldn't normally get into. And Northwestern is the place we landed at. So we're super
Is she excited. A better lacrosse player than...
A million times better. A million times better. She has already achieved more in that sport, and she hasn't even gotten to college yet than I achieved in my entire career. Yeah, she's everything. She's everything I wish I was when I played lacrosse.
Well, you know what? You played a big part in her success so far because the knowledge you've been able. You said you've been working with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I've been coaching her. Yeah.
So that's huge. That's every step of the way you've been with her, and now she's taking her talents to Northwestern. So wow. Yep. Can't wait to see her. Yeah. What number will she wear at Northwestern? Do you know?
Jersey I have number? No idea. I don't know yet. Like, she wants to wear 4, but there's no guarantee that she'll get 4, and she only wants to wear 4 because her dad wore 4. So we'll 4. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So what type of player were you? Were you physical? Were you a finesser? Like, how was
Hell no, man. So I was a lefty attacker who just the way lacrosse sets up with attack, I played midi in college, so I was more in high school. So I was more athletic in high school than I was in college. Then I went to college. They put me in attack because I was a lefty, and lefties are hard to come by in lacrosse. Natural lefty. And so the way lacrosse is set up is I wasn't physical at all. Mm-hmm. I was just, because I was on that right side with a natural left, I was the guy who just sat there and waited for the fast break to develop, and I was always the last guy to get the ball in the fast break, and I would just dump it in the cage. So it's kind of like my career. It's just like I was lazy, waiting for the ball. And once I got it, I slammed it in the net, and that was it. I didn't run much. I didn't hit a lot. I didn't do anything. I just scored goals, man. I was a goal scorer, man.
And that's what everyone would like to be, whatever the sport is. You want to be the one that's putting points on the board.
I'm on the finish. Yeah.
Finishing. The finisher.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. No doubt. And so, Stu, let's go to the origin story with you and Batard. When did you realize there was great chemistry between you and Dan? And when did you realize you were really resonating with your audience?
That's a great question. So, man, it's funny, Brian. We go back, Dan and I have been doing the show now 20 years, maybe 20 years plus, which is rare in our industry. Just because people want to try different things, ego gets in the way, a million different reasons why most of these shows don't last 20 years. But to answer your question, the first year of the show was dreadful. So much so, and I know that sounds funny, but it was bad. And what we were afforded, which many shows are not, which quarterbacks in the NFL aren't afforded, we were afforded time to find our footing, to gain our chemistry, to figure out what was the right way to do the show. because the first year, Dan and I didn't really know each other. And so we were put together by a guy named Boog Shambi, who you know, who was a guy from South Florida. He is now the voice of the Cubs, used to be voice of Sunday Night Baseball for ESPN. And Boog just thought, because he knew both of us individually, he thought, hey, you guys are polar opposites. That will work on radio. For my money, Boog knows more about talk radio than just about anyone I know. And he said, listen, Stugotz, I know Dan, I know you, you're polar opposites. This will work. And so we started 20 years ago doing an afternoon drive in Miami. First year was not very good. Again, we were afforded time to figure it out, thankfully. Dan will tell you stories of nights where he was riding around his neighborhood on a bicycle because he's like, this doesn't feel like the way I want it to feel. I got to figure it out. And I'm like, you can do it at home, man. You don't need to ride around your bike. And then we found our footing about a year in. And the only slight tweak we made was Dan drove the show. And so it went from me driving the show to Dan driving the show, because the star of the show, and I knew this early on, I hired him, was Batard. And I was guessing as to what Dan wanted to do, wanted to talk about, the things that intrigued him, the things that really got him engaged. And I said, fuck it. Sorry if I can't curse on here. I remember us having this conversation. Hey, rather than me guess, you just drive the show. I'll dance around you. I'll react to you. And so once Dan started driving the show, about 6 months in, I knew we were onto something. And then I would fast forward, Brian, just like a couple of years later, because I was the general manager of the radio station at the time. So I was getting Arbitron books, and I was accustomed to going to like 13, 14 on the list, because that's usually where we rank, men 25, 54. I get a book one time, and I don't see us 13, 14, 15, 16. And so rather than assume that maybe we climbed to the top 10 and went the other way, I thought maybe, oh, God, we're in the bottom 10. And I still didn't see us. So I started scrolling back down to the top 10. We weren't 10, we weren't 9, we weren't 8, we weren't 7, we weren't 6, we weren't 5, we weren't 4, we weren't 3, we weren't 2. We were number 1. We were the number 1 show in the market. And so I remember calling Dan. I remember telling him that. We knew we were doing good radio. That validated it. And I knew right then and there, man, we have struck a chord with South Florida. People love our show. So that just helped validate what I kind of already knew, that we were doing something that was fun, unique, a little bit different, talking sports, but just a little bit different.
No doubt. And you guys have been nailing it ever since, you know what I mean? So great chemistry is always needed when you're trying to be successful in a team-related type activity or a team-related type profession. So, Stu, it's been nearly almost a year since your departure from ESPN. What has what has the experience been like, venturing away from ESPN?
Listen, like Dan and I love the 8 years that we were at ESPN. I got to do things that I never imagined I'd be able to do. In fact, Brian, I tell people all the time, like, we were there exactly 8 years longer than we probably should have been there. We were there 8 years longer than I ever imagined myself being there. But the show was rating so well in Miami, and Dan was writing for ESPN, the magazine, that people in Bristol took notice. Like, oh man, this show's got a massive audience, right? And so we loved our 8 years there. Again, I got to do stuff I never thought I'd do, filling in for Mike and Mike, being on First Take, being on College Game Day as a guest picker, just being on Sports Center, Baseball Tonight, like there's a million examples that I could give you. And it's funny because Dan and I would spend some of our time talking about, well, we're all interchangeable at ESPN. It's a machine. It's like we're a luxury, and we're replaceable, and we knew that. Everyone there is kind of replaceable, except for the games. The games are the most important things there. No doubt. The play-by-play, and so we kind of knew it. I'm not certain this is the case for everyone, but we knew because of the size of our audience and the podcast numbers that we were getting, and where this whole industry was headed towards a digital podcast place, that we had the audience to sustain ourselves outside of ESPN. We had the feeling, and we kind of knew it. And so It's been a thrill. I was a little hesitant, to be honest with you, because that ESPN badge, man, that's a powerful badge to be carrying around with you. Yep. But you got to ask yourself when you make these decisions: A, do you have the audience to be able to sustain yourselves on your own without those four letters next to you? Dan and I checked that off. We thought we did. And then B, are you willing to give up just a little bit of relevancy, which you do when you leave ESPN, in exchange to have, I guess, the ultimate freedom, which is where we're at right now? Not to say that ESPN got in the way that much. It's just a different feeling. Now Dan and I can do what we want, talk about what we want, set our own hours, which has been a lot of fun. So I would tell you it's exceeded my expectations because I was super hesitant and nervous when we did it. Yeah. But DraftKings has been a great partner to us. That was a massive deal for our show. We got a number of people congratulating us inside the industry because I think they want to have similar deals, and hopefully they'll get to them. But if you're willing to make that slight, tiny exchange of relevancy or being able to do exactly what it is that you want to do, I can tell you, and that's been the case for us. It's exceeded every expectation I've had for it.
And talking about exceeding the expectations, we all saw the news with Apple TV and Metal Arc. You know what I mean? We saw that news that broke with you and Dan. And question for you, a lot of people want to know, what are the chances that we see you join Ted Lasso's coaching staff?
Listen,
what are the chances we see Stugotz on the coaching staff, or maybe just receiving one of those little coffee donuts Ted likes to give? You know what I mean? What's the little cakes he gives?
Yeah, those little Debbie cakes or something
the
like that.
Little Debbie cakes, yes. That's so wonderful, by the way. That's what they say.
Listen, I'm. You know me well enough to know I'm pushing for it every day. Okay?
I know you are. That's why I was like, this question would be so appropriate for Stu, because I know he wants to get over with Ted Lasso to some degree. But yeah,
I'd like to do it. And Bill Lawrence is, the executive producer, director, writer of that show, has become a friend of our show and a friend of ours. And so, right now, I'd place it at like 50-50. It's a coin toss, but I haven't had a conversation with him yet, like a real conversation with him about it yet. And once I do, I'd like to think those chances increase from 50-50 to 80-20. I'm going to get on that show. A second conversation with him, I will put that thing at 95-5, that I will be on that show, man. I'm getting on that show, McFadden. I don't care how I get there, but I'm getting on that show.
I'm rooting for you. I am rooting for you. That'd be super, super dope to see my guy Stugotz on Ted Lasso. Better matter of fact, it's a real good show. Y'all should check it out if you haven't already.
It's a great show. Listen, I'm only 5 episodes in, which he's outraged about, and that's probably why I'm not on the show yet. He's like, listen, don't call me back until you've caught up. And I'm so busy right now that I still. You would think that I would catch up quickly in an effort to get on that show whenever they make the third season. I'm not there yet, but I also am armed with kind of a time frame of when that potential next season will be. So I know I have some time to get through it. I will get through it.
No doubt.
Great show.
Let's transition to the current state of professional football in South Florida, and that's the Miami Dolphins.
Oh boy.
Is there any hope for the Dolphins?
Oh,
any hope?
Man. Brian, it's so funny, man, because I said at the beginning of this season, when you looked at the Dolphins, you look at their draft capital, you look at what they have in terms of draft picks over the next couple of years. They got they got a lot of ones, they got a lot of twos. I remember saying this before the season started. If I was speaking of coaching, real coaching, if I was afforded the opportunity to go coach an NFL team, I'm not certain. Now, this is at the beginning of the season. I'm not certain I would choose the Dolphins because they have Tua, the young quarterback, because they have all this draft capital.
You're not a Tua fan?
No, I was a Tua fan. I am a Tua fan.
Okay.
But I was also thinking at the time, Flores has done a good job. The GM has done a good job. They have a good young nucleus of talent. They have a good young quarterback. They also have enough to go out and get a guy like Deshaun Watson if he becomes available. Again, all this is before the season. We'll see how it plays out with Deshaun Watson. And I thought the Dolphins were really a team on the rise, and they have played absolutely dreadful this year. It's been terrible. It's been an embarrassment. It's been the same old, same old. So much so where you have Dolphin fans saying, hey, They went from loving Brian Flores to Dolphin fans now wanting, he's on the hot seat, and they want him. They no longer want him to be the Dolphin head coach. And so a win yesterday over a terrible Houston Texan team at home did not make people feel any better. I can promise you
I can tell you this much. I felt like just my personal opinion, and knowing the NFL and know how they handle head coaches. If B-Flow would have lost at home to the Texans, I don't know if he would have made it out through the season as the head coach.
Probably not. Because
if you don't beat the Texans, you probably don't beat somebody else.
No, you're right. I think Stephen Ross would probably let him finish out this season. And I don't think Brian Flores is going to be fired. I think he'll be afforded one more season, and I think he's earned that and deserves to be afforded another season.
I hope so, Stu. Yes. I agree with you. I think I hope he gets another year. They have 2 wins. Let's say they don't win another ball game. They finish the season 2-15, or they finish the season 3-14. Right. With all the expectations. This was clearly a playoff team. Many people felt this team would get into the playoffs before the start of the season, one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL. I hope he gets another opportunity, but it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't. And this right here, just my personal opinion, thinking outside the box, if they were to fire Brian Flores, which I agree, I hope that doesn't happen. I think he should get one more opportunity.
Are you going to name the next head coach? I love this.
I'm naming the next head coach here. All things covered with Stugotz.
Okay.
Jim Harbaugh.
Wow. Yeah, Stephen Ross, Michigan connection. I'm not certain Harbaugh was the guy he didn't want originally when he left San Francisco, but he also wanted him to go to Michigan. No, I like that. Because how much longer can Michigan go with a guy who can't beat Ohio State, can't even beat Michigan State?
Yep.
And Stephen Ross, whose name is on every building in Ann Arbor, loves Jim Harbaugh. And so if there's a return to the NFL, that would make sense. I like that, Brian. You learn well, man.
Hey, I got to think outside the box.
Next one.
Hey, and the thing about Jim Harbaugh with Michigan, letdowns against his arch rivals. We know that. But he kind of, revitalized that program when he jumped into the forefront. Remember, they had some down years, especially losing when Rich Rod was there. Michigan was clearly not relevant in the recruiting standpoint on the field. So he has made the program relevant. Just they haven't been relevant against Michigan State, Ohio State. Some of their arch rivals in the Big Ten. And people still respect what he did at San Francisco as well. That still carries a lot of weight. So I'm with you. I think B-Flow should get another year. But if they fired him, it wouldn't be surprising seeing what has happened to some coaches in the National Football League. And I'm saying it now. If that happens, Jim Harbaugh will be the next head coach for the Miami Dolphins.
All right, I like it. In fact, I'm going to steal it and roll with it on the air, okay?
Go ahead.
I'm not even going to give me credit.
Go ahead. Steal it and roll with it. Jim Harbaugh. And when it happens, you just gotta take me out to eat at one of the fancy restaurants. And I
do that regardless. It doesn't matter. I'll do that anyway. No, and I will attribute that to you because I think that's smart. I think that's probably if it plays out that way. Let's do it this way. Yeah. First off, they play the Jets 2 more times. Okay, so that's probably 2 more victories.
It better be.
Yes, but I will tell you, regardless of how they finish this season, if Stephen Ross, the Dolphins owner, has an inkling that Jim Harbaugh is going to get fired from Michigan and Harbaugh wants to jump back into the NFL and would do so in Miami, he will get rid of Flores for Harbaugh.
No question.
He will get rid of even if they won the rest of their games. I'm serious.
I think if you're Jim Harbaugh, you've reached your ceiling at Michigan. I mean, year after year has been some type of letdown. And I don't think they would fire him because, firing Jim Harbaugh, and who do you go to if you're Michigan? I mean, right? Who do you go to? But I think it would be more so, hey, Stephen Ross, he wants you.
Yeah.
I come get back into the National Football League because, come on, the National Football League is the pinnacle of coaching greatness. That's where you want to go. If you're a college coach, you want to get to the league. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If most college coaches want to do that at some point in time. So we got to wait and see. But I'm with you.
The difference is he's already done it. He did it at the highest level. He almost won a Super Bowl doing it. And so
but he didn't have the backing of the front office officials in San Francisco that led to that separation.
No, and he would have the backing down here.
Oh, hands down.
He would have complete control.
Just the Michigan ties as well. If he wanted to hire you to be the defensive back coach, Stephen Ross would be like, okay, hire Stugotz.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right.
Whatever you want. You can hire whoever you want. It doesn't matter. Right. So he would have more than the backing that he didn't have in San Francisco that led to the separation. Let's keep it within the NFL. Some more Week 9 talk. I can tell you this much, Stu. I don't know if you gamble. I gamble. I put parlays together every weekend. Saturday college football, Sunday NFL, Monday, Thursday NFL. This was the worst weekend.
Terrible.
NFL wise. Because underdogs were winning big time.
Brutal.
Which upset was the bigger surprise for you? Jacksonville beating Buffalo or Denver just manhandling Denver like they did?
Oh, Dallas. Denver, Dallas.
Dallas.
Buffalo, Jacksonville. Oh, man. Football, like Dan and I just call it football. Like football happened everywhere. Like you just like random stuff happens in the NFL. No like, the Giants beat the Raiders. Like just all kinds of weird stuff, It
was a lot. It was a lot.
I would say the Bills losing to Jacksonville and the way they lost 9-6, like that offense, that quarterback, that team that's been so dominant. I will tell you this. That Chris Sims told us on God Bless Football, one of the podcasts that we do. He told us a couple of weeks ago, even while Buffalo was putting up, 30 in the 30s. I mean, they're averaging like 33 points a game this year. He said something slightly off. There is something slightly off with that Bills offense. It's not coming as easily as it did last year. Josh Allen's not playing as well. The offensive line's not as good. Don't be surprised if they have a terrible offensive performance coming up in the next few weeks. And lo and behold, they had one yesterday at Jacksonville. So that was, to me, that was the shocker of the weekend, because I think a lot of people just thought, hey, Buffalo, one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the AFC, perhaps in the NFL, and to put up a stinker like that and only put up 6 points against a bad Jacksonville defense, losing to Urban Meyer, that was pretty bad. That was pretty embarrassing. The Denver game and the Cowboy game, but the Cowboys are going to be fine, and Denver's a decent team, right?
They're better than Jacksonville.
Right, they're better than Jacksonville. So while surprising, not that surprising. I wonder what your thoughts are on this, because I'm a big believer in rhythm, chemistry, all that stuff. I thought the decision for the Cowboys to sit Dak, even though they won the game, Bryant, last week, to sit Dak Prescott, because you have it rolling, right? And that chemistry is developing, the confidence is developing, and then you sit, and then he has to come back and restart it all over again.
Yep.
I thought that was a big mistake. If Dak Prescott tells you he's good enough to play, trust your guy and put him in there. He's your starting quarterback. Don't mess with it. Not when you're rolling like that. Do you agree?
Well, I think when you look at this injury, a calf injury can be very, very tricky. It can kind of be in the same conversation as a hamstring when it comes to thinking you're feeling good and no, I'm not. And you can re-injure the injury or even have a significant setback. And I think what helped the Cowboys in making their decision to sit Dak Prescott, the Houston Texans, I think Tyrod Taylor had a strained calf after week 1, week 2. He just came back.
Yes.
So he missed 5-6 weeks, with that same similar injury. So if you're Cowboys, if you're Dallas, right in the same state, state of Texas, you saw was, and I'm pretty sure they communicated with the medical staff in Houston to see exactly, hey, what are you guys thinking? Because Tyrod Taylor has yet to return. We want to make sure we're smart, because it wasn't about the short term, it's more about the long term with Dak Prescott. But I don't think that was the reason why they lost yesterday. They played against a team in the Denver Broncos. Like you said, they can be a sneaky, pretty good team.
Yes.
And having Jerry Jeudy back in the lineup really, it improves the offense. And we saw improvement from Teddy Bridgewater. And defensively, that was the most shocking thing, how they just put pressure on Dak Prescott. The tackles could not protect Dak Prescott at all. And I had to remind myself, wait a minute, didn't they just trade Von Miller? So who's put on this pressure on Dak Prescott? You know what I mean? So I think that was the best move. I was okay in doing so, especially if he didn't get full clearance from the medical staff, because it's not about the long term. It's not about the short term. It's more about the long term, because if they don't have Dak Prescott, I can care less what Cooper Rush did against Minnesota. You don't stand a chance.
Yeah, and in fairness, that division's so bad that they could probably afford the loss that they sustained over the weekend, because that division's just so bad. Yeah. But you only have one. Listen, only one team's going to get a bye in each conference this week, and Dallas was headed that way. Yeah,
and that's the picture. It's not about winning the division. Barring any crazy, foolishness happening, they're going to win the division easily. They have their eyes set on that first seed where you get that bye. And even though they lost, you still, you're within good reach to achieve that seeding in the playoffs.
But a lot of good things happened for Dallas. I mean, them losing was terrible, but you had Green Bay losing their game. You had the Buccaneers losing their game. The Arizona Cardinals and Colt. I thought Colt McCoy was retired. I thought he retired 5 years ago.
I did too.
So
I keep forgetting Colt McCoy and Chase Daniels. They're all still in the league. Blaine Gabbert, they're all still in the league reaping big time checks. So I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you had the Rams lose last night. So a lot of things worked in Dallas's favor.
I agree.
And so we'll see how they are. We'll see how they are moving forward, because I think that team, man, Bryant, this is like the most, like for me, in the NFL, this is like there are 12 teams that can win the Super Bowl, and I would not be surprised. And I'm not certain the last time you could have said that entering an NFL season.
That's why I think
there are like 12 teams right now I'm looking at that can win the Super Bowl.
And half of the 12 coming from the NFC.
It's unbelievable. And Green Bay wins it. You're not surprised. Tampa Bay wins it. You're not surprised. Cardinals, Rams win it. You're not surprised. Cowboys win it. You're not surprised. I mean, Chargers win it. You're not surprised. It's like, it's crazy. The Ravens win it. You're not surprised. The Bills. I mean, and the Titans. And no one gives the Titans any credit. It's unbelievable.
No question. And one team that you did not mention in that not surprise episode, I like that. Not surprised. That should be a segment. One team you didn't mention, the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
I know.
What's going on with Pat Mahomes?
I don't know. That you're right. It's like we could sit here and dissect and talk about all the upsets and Dallas and Dak sitting for a week and all this stuff. The biggest story to come out of this past week is the fact that Patrick Mahomes is throwing for 160 yards, and that Kansas City offense is putting up 13 points. Like, I can't explain it. I'm not certain anyone can explain it. Because I don't think we've ever seen it before. I don't think it's so funny, man. Mike Ryan, our producer, our executive producer, says, oh, that throw, though, in the fourth quarter, that was vintage Patrick Mahomes. Vintage Patrick Mahomes? He's been playing for 5 seasons. Like, how can it be vintage Pat Mahomes? Like, he's on the downside of his career. Hey, that's what Pat used to do when he was at the pinnacle, when he was at the peak. I mean, listen, you probably be better to ask than I am. I can only tell you.
But you're a fan of the game. You're a fan of the game. You watch the game, and the good thing about this question, me or you, we never played quarterback. I know I never played quarterback. You know what I mean? So based on what you saw when the offense was rolling for Kansas City, and now it's a bit stagnant, what do you think is going on?
I think Patrick's out there thinking too much. Like, I think the things we fell in love with about Patrick Mahomes are the things we are now trying to rein in on Patrick Mahomes. The no-look passes, the recklessness, those balls never got intercepted. But those are the things we fell in love with about Patrick Mahomes. And now I see him out there because for the first time in his career, he's getting some criticism from the media, from fans. He's getting criticized. And I see him out there, and he's just thinking too much. Should I make this throw? Should I not make this throw? Years past, he just made the throw and lived with the ramifications. Usually they were good, and this year they've been bad. So turnovers, to me, I've always said this, it's kind of lucky, right? It's kind of, you might have a year where you have 15 interceptions, and the next year you might make all the same exact throws, and it results in 4 interceptions. And so there's some randomness and some luck involved with that. I'd like to think they're going to figure it out. That offense was too good. He's too good. Kelsey's too good. Tyreek Hill's too good for them to be this bad for that long. And Andy Reid's too good of a coach for them not to figure it out. But if you had to pinpoint me and I had to give you a reason, I'd say Patrick's just thinking too much, and he needs to get back to being Patrick Mahomes. And I will also tell you this, and this is only based on people I've talked to, okay? They say that he's just if he holds the ball a split second longer, he's got open receivers everywhere. And so it's a lack of trust in his offensive line is what former NFL quarterbacks have told me. Yeah,
the offensive line has been bad. I mean, they haven't been good since the Super Bowl against Tampa. They're still struggling. They spent a lot of money and resources to improve the offensive line. They haven't really improved like many thought they would improve. And one thing that I'm seeing from Pat Mahomes, he's always had an unorthodox style of playing the quarterback position. And to your point, people love him for that because he took the quarterback position to a whole nother level based on his athleticism and the talent that he has.
Yes.
Now, what he is not doing, he's not seeing the field well. So and a lot of teams are just having success playing zone concepts against Pat Mahomes. And that's the thing. When you look at elite like quarterbacks, if you play zone against them, they're going to rip you apart. They're going to slice you like a Thanksgiving turkey easily. But he's having issues because he's not seeing the football field. He's not seeing the field well. So when I look at the great quarterbacks that we've seen, the Tom Brady's of the world, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, those type quarterbacks, they have a unique way to dissect what's happening before the play is moving. Correct. The pre-snap understanding of what they're seeing. So Pat Mahomes, he's always had a gift of being just a great talent of throwing the football. Sometimes you rely more on that than actually studying and knowing what these defenses are doing. It's almost like a cornerback who's always been super, super fast. If I'm the fastest one on the football field, I don't really need to study wide receivers like that because, heck, they can't beat me deep because I'm always the fastest one. I might not need to study as much as a guy who might not be as fast as me because he needs to understand the cerebral part of the game because I'm not as athletic as the guy who can run a 4.2 or 4.1.
Right.
So for Pat Mahomes, he's gifted. His arm is so gifted. It's almost like I can do it without putting the extra time in to study and devote like a Drew Brees. And I'm not saying he don't study. I'm not saying that. I'm just giving my opinion because he's not seeing the field well. Anytime you see a quarterback struggle and seeing the field well, they're having issues dissecting what the defense is trying to do to them. To Peyton Manning, come to the line, dissect anything you want. It doesn't matter. That's why we used to have to disguise our coverages against Peyton Manning because he would find out what it was we were doing. Tom Brady noticed what coverage we were in by looking at the nose guard based on his stance. Crazy. If he's shading one side, he knew what we were in the secondary by studying the nose guard. How is that even possible? Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. But those guys were able to take their level, their mental game to a whole nother level, and that's why they are considered to be the greatest of the greats.
So just so I'm hearing you correctly, and I think it's a great point, he was getting by on just pure athleticism, skill, all that stuff. And now, next, if you want to maintain that level, it's, hey, that goes for everyone, okay?
No
Even
question.
Patrick Mahomes. So now it's like, hey, get in there, watch the film, know the defense, know the reads, know the coverage. You're not suggesting that he doesn't, but do it more because that's what you're right. More. Yeah, that's what Brian, I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
If I told you the day you retired that Tom Brady, what year did you retire?
2012.
If I told you that 9 years later Tom Brady would still be doing this shit, you would have told me what?
It's a possibility if he's healthy because he has the above the shoulder game. That's the thing about Tom Brady. The above the shoulder game is still A1. He's never been an athletic guy. You know what I mean? If you put Tom Brady in a foot race with his peers like Drew Brees, well, he might beat Peyton Manning, but he wouldn't beat Drew Brees. You know what I mean? He's never been that type of player athletically, but his above the shoulder game is A1.
The best.
So now if you factor in a guy like Pat Mahomes, if he gets a piece of what Tom Brady has mentally, my goodness.
Yep.
Think about some of the best athletes we've seen in professional sports that come in and they're just so gifted athletically. At some point in time, they have to change their game because the game will catch up to them.
Brian, like even Michael Jordan did. Even the greatest of all time had to change his game midway through his career.
It happens because the game will catch up to you. When they know you're considered the great at what it is you're doing, we got to find a way to stop him.
Correct.
The AFC West, since Pat Mahomes became the starter, they were trying to figure out ways to stop him because if you can't stop Pat Mahomes, you won't get a chance to win the division.
Right.
And then the other AFC teams have been trying to figure out ways to stop them. All we saw was the Bucs kind of open the Pandora's box just a little bit.
Yep.
Just a little bit. Yep. And now everyone is seeing, hey, this is what we can do to stop Pat Mahomes. And if you stop Pat Mahomes, you stop Kansas City.
I also think it's such great points by you. I also think, the other thing that's happened here is the emergence of Herbert, the emergence of Lamar Jackson, the emergence of Josh Allen, the emergence of the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry. Even Derek Carr and the Raiders to an extent. There are a lot of good teams in the AFC, man. It's not just a cakewalk for the Chiefs anymore. And there are a lot of good teams. And Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's just a more competitive conference than it has been the last couple of years for the Chiefs. So
and seeing some of the struggles from Pat Mahomes, it should make you appreciate the great ones like Aaron Rodgers, great ones like Tom Brady, because 2 years ago, people were saying Pat Mahomes was the best quarterback to ever do it. They were ready to put that title and give him the crown. Man, number 12 just showed you what we've been seeing 12 for such a long time. You kind of just underappreciate the guy sometimes. Like, listen.
I don't.
Like, Aaron Rodgers is the most, and I know people were saying the most talented player to ever play the quarterback position has to be Pat Mahomes. No, I'm not saying that. I think of my era and my generation, I never played against Pat, but just watching, it's Aaron Rodgers. Now, if I was to say the greatest talented player at the quarterback position ever in the NFL ever, I got to go Dan Marino.
Wow, that's it. We had that conversation today. We were Dan and I were explaining to the young kids on our staff just how good Marino was.
Oh.
The point we were making is that Kirk Cousins has already surpassed Troy Aikman in all the major statistical categories, but Kirk Cousins ain't making it to the Hall of Fame. We were trying to point out that Marino is the one quarterback you can go back to the 80s and the numbers look like the numbers they're putting up today. Like, that's how good Marino was, and he didn't win a Super Bowl, which is a shame, man.
Yeah, it's a shame. The most talented.
But I don't disagree with you. Marino might be the best natural quarterback of all time. Didn't win a Super Bowl, but might be the best natural quarterback. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Him or Elway.
Him or Elway, but I'm taking Marino's arm over any quarterback to ever do it.
Over Rodgers?
Yes. Rodgers would be my number 2.
Right.
I'm taking 13 with the high cleats that come all the way up to his calf muscle,
and that quick release, and that beautiful head of hair coming out of the back of the helmet. I mean,
I remember down in South Florida. I can't remember. I think I could have been 8th grade, 7th grade. I remember they were saying during training camp they heard when he was throwing the ball, like he threw an out route, a speed out, and you heard it going through the wind. That's how much velocity he had behind the football. So that would be my pick. But it's barbershop talk. That's what we do. Give you guys something to talk about.
I think it's a good pick. You'll also have many people outraged with you saying he never won a Super Bowl. So good luck with that.
and that's a nice segue for me. Speaking of Super Bowl, who's your Super Bowl pick?
Oh, wow. Before the season, it was the Chiefs. I had the Bucks and Chiefs meeting up in the Super Bowl. That has to be revised because I have no faith in the Chiefs right now. I'll probably regret that. But I'll still say the Buccaneers, and in the AFC. Listen, this is a selfish. It's not going to be Tennessee. Because I love how he plays so much, and I do think he's the MVP and about to win his second MVP. And because I don't want this to happen to him, because it's going to happen to him if he doesn't do it, I'm going to go with the Ravens. Lamar Jackson. Dominic Foxworth said this to me once, and it resonates. This is like 2 years ago, as much today as it did the day he said it. And Brian, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. On a field of world-class athletes, Dominic Foxworth told me, do you know how hard it is to stand out on a field of world-class athletes? And Lamar Jackson stands out on a field of world-class athletes. He is doing it with nothing. And so I would love to see the Ravens, Lamar Jackson taking on Tom Brady. You kind of have the new style quarterback of Lamar Jackson against the statuesque, pocket passer and Tom Brady. I'd love to see that. I don't know if the Ravens are going to get there, but they have as good a shot as any other team in the AFC. So I'm going to go Ravens, and I'm going to go Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The issue that I have, and I'm a Steeler guy. I don't like anything Baltimore Raven related, but I love Lamar Jackson, especially with him, South Florida ties. They're doing him a disservice because if you look at all the teams that you mentioned as quality teams that could win it all, they have quality pass catchers at the wide receiver position. Mm-hmm. They have at least 2 or 3 guys, or clearly a clear-cut number 1 guy who is a go-getter. They don't necessarily have that right now in Baltimore. And at some point in time, when you're in the playoffs, when you're playing great on great, it's going to hurt you. It's going to hinder you. And that has really hampered Baltimore over the last 2 years or so, playoff time. All the young quarterbacks Josh Young, Stephon Diggs, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase.
Yes.
And even before Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd wasn't no pushover either.
Right.
And the best way I can sum this point up for you guys that are watching us and listening to us, if you were to rank the wide receivers by team in the AFC North, it's safe to say you would put Baltimore dead last.
I would AFC North. And now I got to look at it. Now you're intrigued me. I think you're probably right. In fact, I would probably say there are teams far lesser than any team in the AFC North who might have better wide receivers than what Lamar Jackson. Yeah, look at the Bengals, the Steelers, the Browns. I would even go as far to say this, okay? I would say the Broncos probably have better wide receivers than the Baltimore
Sutton,
Ravens.
Patrick,
right? Yeah,
Dewey,
right.
yeah.
Like, I might take I could even maybe take it a step further and say I'm looking at teams in the NFC. I mean, the Vikings certainly have better wide receivers, that's for sure. Yeah.
In totality at the position, that's a concern. Yes. Like I love Hollywood Brown. I love what he does, but it's not just about him. I'm talking about the entire wide receiver room.
Yes.
Like his best pass catcher is this tight end who's an outstanding guy in Mark Andrews. Nicely paid Mark Andrews, by the way. But you need wide receivers that in certain situations, it's 3rd and 10. Man, we got to get this. I know I can count on this guy.
He is the best. Listen, he's the best running back on the team. He's the best player on the team. He might be the best player on the NFL. In the NFL, and if he played wide receiver, he'd be the best wide receiver on their team. Okay, and I'm pretty certain if he played cornerback, he'd be the best cornerback on their team. Okay, he is that kind of athlete. But you are right; no quarterback has been saddled with less. No great quarterback has been saddled with less than Lamar Jackson.
Yes,
it's amazing he gets them as far as they do.
Because he's that good. He is that good.
Now put some people around him and see how good he could be. Right?
Oh my goodness. And that's what I'm saying. They're doing him a disservice, but they're doing the rest of the league, including the AFC, a favor. Because if they gave Lamar Jackson, say, hey, you know what? We're going to try to go trade for Allen Robinson, or we're going to go get OBJ, or we're going to go get Deshaun. Just somebody. You know what? Now we're cooking with gas. And gas stoves are the best stoves to cook on. I love gas stoves.
I like charcoal.
No question.
I like a charcoal grill. Hey, I got to run. I'm sorry, dude.
Huh?
I got to run. I'm sorry, man.
Okay, there's no problem at all. No problem at all. Hey, listen, that's the thing about Stu. Like, we can just end it however we want to end it.
I'll come back and finish it with you in 15 minutes. But then I got a guy I'm supposed to interview that I'm 20 minutes late for.
Oh, man. Hey, well, listen, I appreciate you for being late to interview that guy to be on my show.
We're not live. Please tell me this isn't live.
This is live, Stu.
Oh, it is? I got to run. No, you're an ass. You learn well from me.
Hey, Stu, I appreciate you for joining us here. All Things Covered, though.